Employees rejecting Kellogg's new offer, extending a strike that's lasted more than 2 months. The latest proposed offer would give 3% raises to 1,400 workers, including cost of living bumps, and continue the current health care benefits package. The union says the proposed raises are unfair to newer employees. Kellogg's now moving forward with outside help to keep production lines operating during the strike. Kellogg saying in part, we have an obligation to our customers and consumers to continue to provide the cereals that they know and love.
Now, union workers believe that the long hours that they've worked throughout the pandemic warrant a much larger pay increase. But Kellogg says the union is creating unrealistic expectations. Adrian?
All right. Yeah, it's a tough story. It's just this leverage between, doing the right thing, keeping business moving.
Is that the story, though? Doing the right thing versus keeping the business moving? Are those really the only two choices that we have? My name is James Lee. Welcome to my channel 5149, where I talk business, politics, and society. And today we are going to talk about the big corporate lie. This idea that low wages and poor working conditions are necessitated because of business constraints. Basically, the narrative from businesses claiming that, we would like to pay people more and provide better benefits, but we can't because we have a business to run. The Kellogg strike began on October 5th and has largely revolved around the company's two-tier compensation structure, agreed to in 2015, in which newer employees earn lower wages and receive less generous benefits than veteran workers. This, I think, is the beauty of a union. People standing together in solidarity, regardless of whether they personally stand to benefit from the new compensation package or not. The striking workers not only care about their own pay, but also the pay of those around them. And this is kind of why companies hate unions. And it's by no coincidence that this two-tier compensation structure is even a thing. Two-tier systems can sow discord within unions since workers are not rewarded equally for the same work. They may feel that legacy members did not look out for them, and so they might be reluctant to fight for legacy members in subsequent contract talks. Kevin Bradshaw, who worked at the Memphis plant for 20 years, said what the company is asking would undermine the union's solidarity. You're driving the workforce into the ground by separating people and not treating them equally, he said. Same job, less money. Who'd want to work that way? Right, there's this money or financial aspect, of course, which I'll get back to, but in my opinion, I don't think it's by accident that companies in kind of a sinister way want to sow discord or want to create distrust and want to pit people against each other.
Our Ileana Diaz joins us live this morning now with the latest. Ileana, what does this mean for people at home, perhaps watching, wondering if they can get that next box of cereal at the grocery store next trip?
This is just my observation, but isn't it interesting how a lot of media coverage of worker strikes inject this type of narrative that kind of implies that the workers are the reason why you can't find your Fruit Loops or whatever the company makes? It's almost never the fault of the corporations. Hardly any mentions of workers being subjected to 72 to 84-hour work weeks, working a 7 to 7 and being forced to come back at 3 a.m. on short turnaround. Not to mention dangerous working conditions, getting called in from a vacation to fix a machine only to suffer a broken finger and wrist. We're rarely hearing the full story. And, I think to be fair to the media, there are fantastic articles like this one I just cited from Rolling Stone, but that comes from doing a lot of research, which most people don't have the time to do. So they watch something like this.
Unionized Kellogg's workers are not crossing the picket line, voting to reject a new 5-year contract offered by the company. But we're also learning Kellogg's is now forced to hire permanent replacements to keep their operation steady.
Right. The truth is Kellogg's hasn't been forced to do anything. They haven't been forced to hire replacement workers. They're choosing to because it benefits them financially. Two-tier wage systems are not new. They proliferated in the 1980s and made a comeback in the Great Recession when unemployment was high. In tough times, companies say moving new hires to a lower pay scale and scaling back benefits is critical to staying afloat. But that's not what's going on here at Kellogg's, is it? This is a slide from their most recent earnings call. Net sales are up 5%, operating profits up 7%, and earnings per share also up 7%. And these metrics drive probably 99.9% of how companies make decisions. It's not that they can't afford to pay people, it's just that they don't really want to. On one hand, they wrap themselves in empty gestures and values, integrity, respect, yada, yada. But in reality, I don't think they care about any of that. They pretty much treat a lot of their workers as de facto slaves, in my opinion. Kellogg's claims to be committed to your, quote, total health, physical, emotional, social, and financial. Yet in their job postings, specifically, I'm referring here to the one where they are hiring to replace the workers on strike, in the finer print, the ability to work a full shift, come to work on time, work overtime as needed, and the ability to work according to the necessary schedule to meet job requirements with or without reasonable accommodation is an essential function of this position. Doesn't sound all that healthy to me. And the unfortunate thing is that, I kind of come from this environment. I went to business school, and this is how we are trained to think. Shareholders are number one. Things like ESG, aka an evaluation of a firm's collective consciousness for social and environmental factors. That's some corporate jargon right there, but all you need to know is that's all a head fake. On this topic, I have somewhere in my notes the gist being do the bare minimum to get people off your back, and that's it. But that's kind of a reflection of the reality of our current incentive structure. CEOs, they don't take questions from workers for the most part, but every quarter they do take questions from guys like Ken Goldman of JP Morgan, questions like, he's referring to the strike here, and I'm just trying to get a better sense of, as you look to the fourth quarter guidance and you think about early next year, how do we think about the impact on whether it's your gross margin or your EBIT dollars, however you want to think about it, of the labor strikes alone. I read through the transcript. There is no question about how they're doing in terms of their commitment to total health. By the way, shortly after the strike began, management cut off their health care and workers were forced to pay up to $2,980 in COBRA benefits. Yeah, a claim that I'm 100% willing to make is that if corporations could pay people $0, they would, and it would be somehow heralded in an earnings call as some innovative cost reduction program. But one thing that's given me a lot of hope is that we are witnessing the power of online communities like r/Antiwork, which I made a video about a few weeks back, of people using the power of social media and technology to organize in ways that wouldn't have been possible in previous generations. Redditors are spamming Kellogg's job portal to support striking workers. There are guides created to make fake applications look more legit to waste the company's time and resources. It actually crashed Kellogg's website for a period of time. There was even a TikToker who wrote a script that auto-generates applications.
Well, apparently Kellogg's is planning to replace workers who are fighting for better workplace conditions and better pay. And so people over at the Antiwork subreddit have found out they're using these websites to do it, these locations. So you know what I had to do? I had to cook up a little something, I'm not going to try to explain exactly what this does. I'm just going to show you. Go ahead and run the code. Paste when I ran on one of the 4 websites. Oh, and then it fills everything else in. All of it, including filling out the resume. And then it automatically applies. Application has been sent.
I think we often talk about social media in a negative light because the algorithms, they prioritize profits and other things like that and end up dividing a bunch of people. But these platforms also allow for the creation of these amazingly powerful communities that provide solidarity and support for people, people that, quite honestly, the elites and the media have worked for decades, even centuries, to divide. I often think about the Malcolm X quote, if you're not careful, the newspapers will have you hating the people who are being oppressed and loving the people who are doing the oppressing. And I think that's the tough part about all of this. It takes a certain awareness of the situation to create change, but it also requires an ability to take that risk, because going up against powerful people and institutions who have a lot to lose is very risky. But by sharing the burden of this risk, there is actually a small chance that we can shift the priorities of this society to value the worker who has to work 80, 90 hours a week, day after day, year after year, instead of prioritizing the shareholders and executives on earnings calls who are slobbering over a 7% bump in their earnings per share. That is it for me this week. Let me know what you think about our corporate slave culture, as I'm calling it. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. Let me know also what else you want to hear about. One quick update for my loyal 5149ers. I am about to move, so I won't have a dedicated space to record in the next month or so, but I'll do my best to squeeze in a story here and there. But just wanted to give you guys a heads up. Really appreciate everyone. So if you can help me out, please click on that like button, share this video, consider subscribing, clicking on that notification bell icon so I keep making more videos. And as always, thank you so much for your time, and I'll see you in the next video.